Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another ATP Ride Report webinar session. I will say, well, good morning to Deja and Eric. You're on the West Coast, but thanks for tuning in. Today, I'm really excited. We are going to be joined by Deja Hubbard. She is the Senior Talent Acquisition Partner for Horizon Air and Alaska Airlines, and Eric Neuville. He is an ATP alumni as well as a Embraer 175 First Officer at Horizon. We're so happy to see you all joining us today. I do see quite a few names recognized from the West Coast of our locations for instructors, so thanks for tuning in. At this time, I would like to welcome Deja and Eric. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to have you and hear some more insight on Horizon. So to start, we would like to just find out a little bit more about your background. So I'll go ahead and I'll start with Deja. Can you talk to us and just give us some insight as to your background and how long you've worked for Horizon and Alaska?
Yeah, thank you so much, Ashley. We're really excited to be here today. Our partnership with ATP has always been very important to us, and we're excited to continue that through these more challenging times. And I have actually worked for Alaska Air Group, Alaska Horizon combination for about 9 years now, actually, right at 9 years. And about half that time I spent in flight. And then I moved over to the recruiting side about 4.5 years ago. And have been working with pilot development actually since I started at the very beginning in 2016. So when we launched the program, I was able to come out and be one of the first people to visit ATP down in Phoenix. It's really been awesome to continue to work over the years with ATP, and we're excited to continue that into the future too.
Oh, well, thank you so much. We're equally as excited. And Eric, tell us a little bit about your background. I know that you have, I was talking to Eric before everyone joined of just what an interesting time build you had to ATP Mins. So I'll let you share that.
Yeah, so I'll share as much as I can. My name is Eric Neuville. I am an Embraer 175 First Officer with Horizon. Let's see, I went to ATP Payne Field just north of Seattle, started zero time in July of 2018, and about 9 or 10 months did CFI II-MEI. So the whole program. I did spend a little time in Lawrenceville with Todd Shelna doing CFI Academy, and then the multi-engine instrument flying was in North Las Vegas. I don't think that's open anymore, but I wrapped that all up in May of 2019. Just after I got my instrument rating, I actually bought a used Cessna 152, and I just started flying it every single minute I wasn't working with ATP. And then once I finished all my CFI ratings, I got a cooler and a lot of sandwiches, and I lived in the airplane. I flew at about 8 to 10 hours a day. Every day the weather was suitable. And I finished my 1,500 hours in, let's see here, I finished May of 19 was the program, and I finished all my time in December of 19. So
how many months was that you flew every day straight?
Every day straight, about 6.5 months, yeah. And then I sold the plane the day I finished, and took the next class date, and I'm about the luckiest guy ever because the pandemic really shut things down after I got hired. So I'm one of the last new hires at Horizon on the jet. So I'm really excited to share my experience going through training, and I can certainly put myself in the shoes of many of you who are here listening today.
Well, hey, a great success story, and we're so happy that you had your class date and you're one of the newest first officers, and that you're here to discuss Horizon Air with us today. So thank you both again for joining us. I think to get started, since we do have quite a few viewers that are maybe in the earlier stages of their career, to start out, Deja, can you just share a brief history of Horizon Air?
Yeah, I'd love to. So Horizon was actually founded in 1981 by Milt Holt, right after deregulation, and a lot of airlines were kind of popping on the scene. We actually started our extensive route map of Seattle Pasco. I don't know if all you know where Pasco even is, or in Seattle Yakima. So just from the main hub, Seattle, to 2 smaller outskirts in Washington. And then from there, 5 years later, we were purchased by Alaska Air Group, and have grown substantially since then. Currently, with the addition of the E-175 in 2017, that really allowed us to go further east, and now we're able to support kind of the mid-con region. And so that was our start, humble beginning, but we have just continued to grow, and under Alaska Air Group, it's been a ton of opportunity to support the Alaska flying. And actually, most recently in October, we launched our actual Anchorage flying and Alaska flying. And so we're really excited to be up in the state of Alaska and able to support many of the communities that really are dependent on air service to get their needs met. And so we've had a long history, some history that we're really proud of, and we're looking forward to a lot of success in the future.
Perfect. Well, thank you. And yeah, we were very excited to see as well your new flying up in Alaska. And now that we've learned a little bit about your history, can you tell us more about just who you are as a company today? And then I know Eric will maybe expand upon what type of aircraft you presently fly.
Yeah, so we are still part of Alaska Air Group proudly, and we are able to support the mainline Alaska flying. And that's really given us a lot of unique opportunities, especially in this challenging kind of COVID pandemic era, because Alaska has been impacted, like the whole industry, on amount of flyers. They were able to utilize Horizon to come in and support markets where maybe we had a 737 or an Airbus on that market with 181 seats or something. And so they still need that service, but maybe not at that level. And so then we are able to come in on the Q400 or the Embraer and support that with a 76 seat plane. And that's really opened up a lot of opportunity for us. So much so that in December, every single plane we have is on the line, which is really exciting. We were able to get through this situation without any furloughs, which made us really proud and excited. The stability for Alaska Air Group is really strong, and so we feel really secure as a regional in this industry right now, and we're excited to be able to continue to support Alaska and to support continued growth and the flying in Anchorage and in some of the smaller cities up there as well. It has been really exciting. I know we're doing some king salmon flying, and it's just been really fun to see expansion in this time. So even though it's painful in so many ways right now, there's also so much kind of excitement building for what's coming in our future, and we're able to lay the groundwork right now, knowing that we're going to continue to be able to expand on that in the future. So it's exciting times, and we're also really ready for recovery also. So kind of a mixed bag.
We all are, but that is great to hear. And with that, Eric, can you talk a little bit more about the two aircraft that you fly, and maybe expand upon the one that you fly, the Embraer 175?
Of course, yeah. Well, we have two aircraft on property. One is the most recognizable looking one as the turboprop, the Q400, which is similar in passenger capacity pretty much to the Embraer 175. It's Deja is about 75 or 76 passengers.
76.
76 passengers, yeah. It is very unique in that we're still utilizing it, but the thing about it is it's profoundly more fuel efficient, just as quick, covering a certain distance. And what we do here at Horizon is a lot of sort of Pacific Northwest, Washington, Idaho, Oregon flying, where getting up to 250, flight level 250 quickly, and then up to cruise speed and getting back down is the name of the game. And for a lot of these shorter routes, a Q400 is going to be able to do it just as fast, if not faster, burning less fuel than an Embraer 175. So that is an incredible aircraft. And from a lot of my peers who fly it, it is so wildly capable that if you are able to see the runway, drop the flaps, put the props out, you can get that thing down and stopped in, an inch and a half, and it just falls out of the sky. It's a beautiful thing. It's like a STOL aircraft in that capacity. The Embraer 175 is the Swiss Army knife of the regional arsenal, as it were. It's fast. It's wonderful for the passengers in the cabin. They really like, full overhead bin space, 2 bathrooms, those sort of comfort features. But from the pilot's perspective, it is technologically as capable as any aircraft out there at a major airline. It can shoot Cat 3 minimums, auto land, RNP, which we'll talk about a little bit later. We're talking about cutting edge, frontline technology in these aircraft. So a little bit of something for everybody in each aircraft. So there you go.
Sure. And I mean, let's go ahead and let's talk about that now. I know with the Q400, like you said, and now the Embraer 175, you're the only regional to fly RMP approaches. Can you provide kind of just a little bit more insight on details on this type of approach, as well as really your innovative use of heads-up display?
Oh yeah, sure. The nerd in me is totally going to geek out talking about this, but let me start from the beginning in case we have any people tuning in who are maybe just starting their instrument rating. So for those of you who are just kind of dipping your toes in that world, an approach, right, is the very last phase of flight that brings us out of the en route environment down to the runway. And there are kind of two schools, two families of products. One is the ILS or localizer, which is a radio-based signal on the ground shooting up that brings you down, sort of ushers you down to the ground. And the other is a GPS system. And you maybe have seen, some of you who are more deeper into the pool of instrument flying, terms like LNAV, VNAV, LPV, WAS-enabled approaches. And essentially what those are increasing degrees of integrity monitoring, right? Where we really want to make sure we are where we think we are in three-dimensional space, okay? An RNP approach takes all of that technology and puts it in the airplane so that the airplane itself is able to monitor just how tight a line we can currently fly. And what that enables us to do here at Horizon, and the reason that we fly these is it enables you to fly very uniquely shaped approaches. An ILS or a localizer, straight line, right? An RNP approach, just to give you a sense, could be something that looks similar to a DME arc from the initial approach fix in line with the runway. And then again, inside the final approach fix, turns, GPS coordinated turns. And all of this with so much integrity that you're still able to come down to 300 AGL. So it's kind of a beautiful thing. But some of the charts look a little wonky. I know we could probably do screen share, but I'll just show you. I'll just give you a sense of what an RNP approach looks like. So this is Wenatchee. This is someplace where we go. You'll notice that the airplane would come in from here, fly to the VOR, kick it out, do what looks like a DME arc around this way. And then once it gets into the final approach fix right there, I think it's called Doogie, you can see how the course into the runway is curvy. It's a right turn, then a left turn, and then you have less than a mile before you're on the ground. So it's a pretty beautiful system. It also saves us a ton of fuel, just a ton of money. So it's great. It's great technology.
Perfect. Well, I kind of, and even further on that, for what you fly for the Embraer 175, you were the first operator to achieve that Cat 3 auto land, correct?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's an unbelievable thing to be able to shoot an approach. I think a lot of GA aircraft that we fly at ATP. Typically the best we can do is an ILS down to 200 above the ground, right? So visibility's half a mile, whatever. We're talking about visibility here for an auto land, 300 RVR. I mean, it's unbelievable. You can barely see where you're going. It's so little visibility that you're almost more restricted by the airport's ability to get you to your gate at that point. What kind of taxi program do they have in place? So it's a infinitely capable aircraft.
And Grant was just asking kind of a follow-on to that, which I think you answered on the fuel aspect, but that really does bring additional efficiency to Horizon and these components, especially in the area that you're flying and then the weather that you sometimes experience up there. I'm sure that that's hugely beneficial in efficiency and fuel, efficiency and on-time performance, and really
you are totally on it, Grant. That is on the nose. It enables getting in on time and where you need to be, but it's absolutely saves money. I think I remember reading that when Alaska Airlines, the major airline side, implemented RNP up in Alaska, they saved $19 million the first year, something like that. So
That's phenomenal.
amazing.
The other thing that it really provides for us is efficiency for fuel is great for financial, but it's also great for environmental. And that's really important to us. We have a huge focus on being a very green airline and doing everything we can to be on the cutting edge of that. And that really enabled us to have huge fuel savings for the environment as well. We also, Alaska Air Group, pioneered all the RNP technology. We created it in-house. And so that's something that's always exciting. And we have some proprietary approaches that no one else can do. And we're able to get into places like Sun Valley with the Q400 at an efficiency rate. The closest person to us is about half as often as we can get in. So the technology really enables us to run a very smooth operation. We have, when we're going into Sun Valley, you know, everyone's parking their private jets and hopping on Horizon because they want to get in. So it's pretty cool.
That's quite a story. Well, I think a follow-on question to that, now that we've learned a little bit about your aircraft, would be for Eric. Can you just talk to us about where a Horizon Air First Officer might expect to be based, and then what are some of the destinations that you fly to?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, on the Embraer 175, the base is Seattle. So you would expect Seattle for an Embraer 175 class. For the Q400, Deja, I believe Medford is the primary junior base where you start out of. And then after that, I know some of my colleagues fly at Spokane. What was the other one, Deja?
Boise is another kind of junior base. We also have Portland and Seattle.
Yeah.
I'll show you guys this really quick. So here are their bases, and what I really like about it is you're able to toggle and see the seniority by base. So I think that that's something that's just really neat with your website. So if anyone's interested in reviewing the bases, you're able to do so on Horizon's website. And then now that we've talked a little bit about the bases, can you maybe just expand? Tell us, Eric, what is your favorite destination to fly to?
San Diego.
Okay, you had that ready.
In addition to loving the city, it's a really cool RNP approach. Again, it's not a super complicated one like the one I just showed you in Wenatchee, but you know, you fly right over Balboa Park. You see the SR-71 Blackbird on short final at the Air and Space Museum right underneath you. It's gorgeous. You land right at the harbor. If you missed approach, you're out over the ocean. I mean, it's absurdly beautiful, kind of disturbingly so. It's wonderful. Another one for me is Payne Field, just because I did all my training there, and then all of a sudden you come back in there and you're like, this is nuts. Like you see the ATP planes going by, and it's kind
nostalgic.
of nostalgic. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you both for sharing a little bit about the history and the fleet. I know that a question that probably is on every one of our viewers' mind is talking about a topic, talking about hiring. So since we are talking about who you are today, Deja, you just had a first officer application window open a little bit earlier this month, correct?
Yeah, we were really excited to be able to open that window right at the end of October, and then it closed on the 5th of November. And had a huge response. Obviously, it's kind of challenging in a lot of different areas out there. So the amount of applications we had was really shocking to even me, who knew what was happening in the industry. So really competitive market out there, but we're so excited to be able to continue hiring. We anticipate hiring all of, throughout 2021 and being able to open up that window about once a quarter is our goal. So that as people reach their ATP minimums, you're going to have an opportunity relatively quickly to be able to apply to the position.
Perfect. And so with that being said, can you discuss what the current hiring minimums are for a first officer and really what they are to submit the application and how that might have been different than before, where you could submit prior to ATP min?
Yeah, so prior to this last application, we were bringing people in who were still building hours. And so you could apply when you were within about 6 months of being ready to start. with this latest window, you really have to meet ATP minimums to be able to apply. And so if you're really close, I know that can be really frustrating because you're like, oh, I'm so close to being there. But for compliance reasons, we really had to have everyone meeting the minimum requirements. And so you can meet restrictive ATP mins also, that counts. So if you do meet, one of the qualifications for restricted ATP, you can definitely apply once you have those minimums met. So it doesn't have to be the full ATP, but you do have to meet the minimums. And if you're unsure of what those are, you'll see them on the application. They'll ask them individually, do you have, at least 25 multi-engine hours? The requirement is 50, but on that one, we ask for 25 because we know you'll be able to get 25 more hours in our SEM during the training process.
Perfect. And so I just want to reiterate to everybody, because you made this point a couple seconds ago, but I think it's really beneficial to know, again, that you intend to potentially, assuming, industry stays the same or gets better, hopefully it gets better, that you intend to have that application window open once a quarter so that anybody who might have been close has that opportunity to then apply again, correct?
Absolutely. We want to make sure that you're not having to wait a long period of time. So you will be able to apply within about 3 months.
Perfect. Okay. And then can you walk us through just an overview of the interview process at Horizon?
Yeah. So the process, initially you'll get a phone call, probably from me, maybe from another recruiter, just to talk about your background, anything that we saw on your application or your resume that we just want more details on. And then from there, if everything goes well, we'll set up an actual interview date. We typically fly you in the day before the interview if you're not local, and put you up in a hotel. And then the next morning we start the interview process. We give you a general overview of Horizon, answer any questions you have about the company or the role. And then you do a technical exam. And the technical exam is on an iPad. It's about 30 questions that are multiple choice and fill in the blank. They're mostly things that you're going to be in a good position to answer. It's things that you're going to find on your commercial, really heavy on instrument questions, some scenario based, but it's not going to be things that you have to know on a 121 world or something like that. It's all tailored for someone who really is coming in with ATP minimums. And then after that, you do a 2-on-1 interview with a talent acquisition specialist like myself, and then a base chief pilot or a management pilot, or sometimes a line pilot at Horizon. And that's more of like standard interview questions. Tell me about a time, really an opportunity for you to be able to tell us some experiences you've had and how you've dealt with situations in the past. And then we wrap up that portion of the interview with giving you a jet chart and airport diagram and asking just some following questions about the information we've given you. And we ask you to brief the approach. So really just checking that you have those skill set of being able to look at a chart and give the basic information of what a briefing would look like. And then we do give same day results. So you will leave there with an answer, which is always nice. And if we move forward, we actually do your drug screening, fingerprinting, badge photo, all right there that same day, so that you really don't need to come back until it's ready for class date.
Perfect. And I see Eric nodding that whole time. So I think that he felt very confident too, that those were commercial level questions and you were well prepared.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say. Is I felt like coming out of ATP, I had a pretty firm handle on exactly the kind of questions you get, just case in point, just a couple of multi-engine questions. Hey, you're flying from here to there, IFR, how much fuel do you need? Well, you need to go there, then you need to go to your alternate, then you need to have 45 minutes. So you do your calc, you're just having that in your mind, you know how to solve the problem. Things of this nature, nothing too deep. Briefing the approach. It's okay that we use the government charts with ATP.
Use JEP now.
Oh, I'm an old grandpa. Okay. Yeah, that's wonderful. Tremendous. Yeah. But it's just kind of, coach your way through, talk me through how you're going to fly this DME arc into wherever. There's a few notes that they really want you to see. So make sure you read the chart, things of that nature, but no gotchas. It's pretty straightforward and you'll be prepared.
Perfect. Well, we're glad to hear. I'm sure everyone that's listening in is glad to hear it from your perspective as the applicant. So, Deja, what recommendations would you have for applicants to maybe stand out or be more competitive?
Yeah, so you'll want to make sure you have your flight time on there. Sometimes people leave that off, and that's really the first thing that we're kind of looking for to make sure that you have your qualifications. Really, for Horizon, we are also wanting to make sure that it's going to be a good fit for you, and we're going to be a good fit for you, I guess is what I'm saying, in addition to you being a good fit for us. So we want to make sure that our goals and our principles and our core values really resonate with you as a person. And those things, own safety, do the right thing, deliver performance, be remarkable. Those are all really important things. And so when we're looking at your resume, we want you to include opportunities that you've had to give back to the community, things that are important to you, because we are always looking for people that find value in that and that want to be part of a community. And so I would encourage you to, put associations that you have with organizations if you're heavily involved in those, or any even small things that you do out in the community. I know sometimes we don't even think of them as like community centered or community service, but it really is anytime that you're giving back, mentoring people or youth. We love to see that on your resume and be able to talk to you about that and really understand how our values align with yours.
Perfect. And that's also another area that, when you're going through the interview, it gives you the opportunity for your personality to come out and for you to shine and see, for you as the interviewer to see what an applicant is passionate about.
Absolutely. It's very helpful.
Thank you. Well, I know that another question that we always get are in line with benefits. So can you walk us through what the benefits are that Horizon Air pilots are eligible for?
Yeah. So first year, first officer pay, just to give everyone that, is $41.21 an hour right now, just so you have that. And then in addition, we have medical, dental, and vision. We have very affordable premiums. If you are just a single pilot that needs to cover yourself, it's $4.62 a paycheck. So pretty wild on how affordable that is. And then if you need to cover spouse or dependents, then it goes up from there. But you definitely will have the full package when it comes to all of that. We do have health savings accounts for the high deductible plan. And we do as a company give you $1,000 for employee only coverage a year. And that's just from us to you to help cover those expenses that come up. And then $2,000 if you're covering more people and dependents or spouse. Additionally, we have life insurance that is complimentary, basic life and AD&D. Long-term disability is something that we completely pay for. You have optional addition of short-term disability, critical illness protection, legal options, a variety of things that you can add if you choose. We also have retirement 401k, dollar for dollar matching at 6%, which is really awesome. You don't have any of the, 50% for the first so many percent that you see a lot of the time. It's just dollar for dollar to 6%. We also have performance-based pay, and it's a lot of airlines do have performance-based pay, but we are unique in that it's not 100% revenue-based like most companies. It's about 70% revenue-based, 30% are other metrics that the company sets at the beginning of the year. I've always talked about this, but it's never been more relevant than right now, where revenue is down for every airline in the industry, really. And so we still will have an opportunity to have a bonus this year because of those other goals that we set that we've been working towards. And those change every single year. They can be anything from like, on-time performance or credit card sales or hard stops on airplanes when we land. I mean, there's just all kinds of runs the gamut of what we're working on each year. And so we're really excited to be able to offer a really comprehensive package in that sense of having that bonus. We also have employee stock purchase plan. If you're interested in that, that's optional. You can set aside 1 to 10% of your paycheck to buy Air Group stock. And how that works is at 6-month periods. They look at the opening price on day one and then the closing price on the last day. And whichever one of those is lower, we minus 15% off that. And that's what you're able to purchase your stock at. So it's a really great opportunity. It's vested immediately. You can turn around and sell it the next day if you choose to. We have a monthly incentive called Operational Performance Rewards, or OPR. That's your on-time arrival and customer satisfaction. That's company-wide. It's not based on you as an individual. But if we meet our goals, then we get $75 per item per month, so $150 a month. Our last one was paid out in October, and we got the whole $450. So it's pretty neat to be able to all of us come together, work as a team to really deliver results, and have a really great operation. It's like a win-win situation. Of course, we have holiday and sick pay, 8 holidays a year, and then 3 weeks of vacation, 136 hours up to the first 4.9 years, and then up from there. And then, of course, the benefit that we all love is travel benefits. So you have unlimited standby travel on Alaska and Horizon. Horizon, you would have priority on Horizon metal, and then on an Alaska flight, you would go after the Alaska employees. So it's just vice versa, depending on what metal you're on. It's for you, your spouse, or other chosen person. So you get to choose who your flight companion is, and then they can also have that privilege. And then any dependents, your parents, and then we also get 20 one-way passes to give to friends and family each year. And that's a really great opportunity for them to get to enjoy a perk of Alaska. And that's, they just pay 10% of the issued fare for that route. And so it's a really comprehensive package. And if anyone has any questions on that at the end, I'd be happy to expand on any section.
Perfect. Well, thank you. You gave us a lot of information, and I know everyone's always excited to hear about the travel benefits aspect of it. Can you also share just some more details on how flying for Horizon provides that pathway to Alaska Airlines?
Yeah, since we are both part of Alaska Air Group, we've always been closely aligned. And back in 2018, we really took that to a new level when we created our pathway program. And that's an opportunity for Horizon pilots to move to Alaska. And how that looks is once you've been on the line 6 months flying, you're eligible to apply. You fill out just a very short application process, and then we set up an interview for you with the Alaska-based chief pilots and talent acquisition, essentially. And you have a very abbreviated interview in comparison to our normal Alaska process, which is an all-day event. You just, basically, we have your training records. We already have all of your disciplinary records. So it's really just us understanding why you want to go to Alaska and what is, making sure that it's going to be a good fit for you. And if everything goes well on that interview, then you're put onto the pathways list. And Alaska then just goes in Horizon seniority order and takes who they need off the top. It's a minimum of 30% of all their classes filled with Horizon pilots, up to 50%. Last year in 2019, since that was a more typical year, we did 40% of all of Alaska's pilots that came from Horizon. So it's a really great opportunity. We're really excited to have our first pilot development student going to Alaska. So they started in pilot development, came to Horizon, flew, and now they were set to be in a class, I think in April, but with all the changes that happened, so now they're still waiting. But it's going to be a really exciting day to see that full circle moment. And it's a really great opportunity to be able to apply before you would ever be eligible or competitive at the Alaska side.
That's fantastic. And it's a true, it's a pathway to think about your end goal of flying one day at Alaska. So that's great. Thank you for sharing that. Can you, now moving on to talk about, we're going to talk about training next. So once a pilot receives a conditional job offer, Eric, can you detail the training process for us?
Yeah, of course. So once you have the conditional job offer and you coordinate with Deja on your start date, one of the first things that you'll probably do is go down to ATP CTP class. You'll come in initially for a day one sort of company overview, but then you go down to Texas for ATP CTP. You take your ATP written exam. And then you come back up to Portland, where it's going to be ground school for several weeks, followed by VPT training, which is essentially a stationary simulator to learn the computer systems of the plane, and then simulator training. It's currently in Seattle here at Flight Safety. Following that, you go out for your initial experience in the aircraft with a check airman. And that takes a few weeks. And then you have your line check at the end of that, and you're released out into the wild.
Perfect. Well, hey, that sounds released out into the wild. That's a way to put it. What was your most, favorite experience or most memorable experience going through IOE?
Oh, wow.
To come back to you on that, maybe?
That's just a really good question. It's humbling. I think I'll just say that it's a humbling experience because, we can all remember, hopefully, the first time we get in the aircraft and you can barely taxi center line with your, and then you're coming in for just a basic lap in the pattern and you're like, you can't maintain airspeed. But by the time you're done with the ATP program, you can blindfolded, you can fly the pattern, your airspeeds, when the flaps come down, everything is so kinesthetically and physiologically emblazoned into you. Then you get back, you get into a 80,000 pound jet, right? And they say cleared for the visual approach, and I guess you're kind of on a downwind and you're looking at the airport and you're going, how am I going to do this? And relearning how everything feels again, the sight picture, the feel, the buttons to push, the things to program, what's going to help you, what's going to hurt you, and having all that automation at your disposal is, it's a very humbling and fun thing to go through again.
But that's what you have those, check airmen and pilots flying beside you for, right?
Yeah, we're all eternal students. The good students or the good pilots are always eternal students. So.
Sound words of advice. Well, thank you for sharing that. As far as early involvement, Deja, can you talk us through, maybe interviews for the pilot development program are not happening at this time, just a little bit of details about that and how to get involved a little earlier on.
Yeah, so we are continuing our pilot development program in the sense of everyone that's in the program is continuing through, and we do anticipate opening it again at some point. We don't know exactly what that timeline will look like, but when we are able to open it, then we will let Ashley know, and everyone that's reached out and said they're interested in it, we'll notify you and let you know we're going to be opening up the window. If you're interested in being notified specifically by me, you can definitely join our talent community and go in, put in your information. You can do horizonair.jobs and go in and fill out that process. And it's going to look like an application really, but it's just to join our talent community. Then we let you know when that window opens in case you don't hear it at your school or see the poster or however that looks. And so once we get your application and we are opening up interviews, then we review those and select those students that are coming in and wanting to be CFIs for ATP. The program is really set up as a partnership. We want to work with ATP to have success and sustainability for the entire airline industry, really. We have to have CFIs to teach the newer students coming in. And so it's really a great opportunity for you to get some extra funding. Sign that. So we do the application, we meet with you, do the interview. And if you are successful in the interview, then we work with ATP to have you sign the contract when you have your commercial license and are ready to start the CFI. Or you sign after the CFI, Ashley, sorry.
After the CFI normally.
And then you're able to get funding, $5 per flight hour per month while you're building time, which sounds like not much, $5, but it really does add up and helps out quite a bit.
Yes, so those student loan payments, it for sure does. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I know we will, like Deja said, we will let any of our students and instructors know as soon as we find out about that next opening, which we are very excited and looking forward to that. And I know that we do have, I see some viewer questions, and there's quite a few things that I still want to go over. So I do want to, as far as our formal presentation, I want to thank you both for taking the time to discuss career opportunities at Horizon with us today. And we again really appreciate your insight, Deja. You've been with Horizon and the Alaska Air Group for a really long time, and Eric, for your insight as a student and ATP alumni. So thank you both. As far as the information as far as upcoming application windows, I just want to reiterate, so that is that Horizon Air Talent community, correct? That's where they'll be able to then sign up and receive those updates.
Yeah, so once you have gone in and put in your information, then when we're posting the position, we reach out to all of you guys and say, hey, we're going to be opening a window at this date. And honestly, once you're already in the talent community, you can pull all that information for your application too. So it's going to be even easier to apply when the time comes because your information's already in there.
Perfect, thank you. And Eric, can you tell us how domiciles are selected?
Can I tell you how domiciles are selected? Ooh, it's a mysterious process. I think I'll just defer to Deja because I don't really know.
Yeah, so you will actually bid for a domicile while you're in ground school. And you will actually rank them 1 through 5 if you're on the Q. I mean, I think on the E it's a little bit simpler because you're
yeah. Sorry, Eric.
Nope,
but on the Q400, you say, my first choice is Boise, my second choice is Seattle, my third choice is Portland. And then what we do is we look at where are openings, where are we going to need pilots that month, and we assign you. So maybe you get your first choice of Boise, or maybe you don't, and you get Portland. And then you have like your standing request for how you want to move. And every single month we move pilots. So just because you don't get your base the first month, sometimes people get their base before they get out of training. So maybe I'm assigned Portland the first month, but I'm still in training. And then the second month I get moved to Boise after all. So it's a very fluid process. When we are hiring frequently, there's a lot of movement, and you're really not, historically, we haven't had anyone forced into a base they didn't want to be longer than about a year. And that's really pretty unusual. But right now that could be the case. So it's a lot of movement, and you do get a lot of say.
Perfect. Well, another question that I'm sure is on everyone's mind, since you had that recent application window, you have actually had classes this fall, correct?
Yeah, we were really excited to be able to have 2 classes in November, one at the beginning, and then one will start on the 30th. And so both of those classes were E175 classes. We were able to get in 3 pilot development students into our first class. And we're really committed to our development students. And we know you made a commitment to us, and we want to honor the commitment we made to you as well. And so we are having pilot development students in those classes. In January, we will be having both a Q400 class and an Embraer 175 class, so one of each. And then we do anticipate having hires the rest of the year, but we don't have any firm dates past January because we are taking our time to make sure that we are hiring the right numbers. As you can imagine, attrition is down, so we aren't losing as many pilots as we were, but there still are retirements, there still are opportunities. And so each month we're just being very, very diligent in making sure that our manpower numbers are right. So we will continue to be hiring. I just don't know how many.
Perfect. And a follow-on question to that, pre-COVID, I know that new hires were able to select the airframe that they wanted to fly. Is that still the case?
Yeah, right now that, I'm glad you brought that up, Ashley. It is a little bit different right now because we aren't having classes in both airframes every single class. Before we had that. And so we were able to say, hey, when you want to go into. Right now, the industry is pretty different, and we are asking that pilots be open to flying either airframe. And so we don't know what airframe we're going to have at any given class. So if you are wanting to come to Horizon, then we want you to have that flexibility where you can go into either airframe. So yeah, at this point, we're not doing choices because we don't have choices to offer.
Thank you. And Okay, as far, I'm sure that, like you said, you had a tremendous number of applicants in that recent opening. Is there an estimated time frame as far as when an applicant may expect to hear back?
You know, it's not a really great number that I can give you because we do continue to use that application grouping as we're continuing to hire. So I have pulled people that are going to start in January from there, and they're getting interviews right now. But it doesn't mean that we wouldn't pull your application in a couple of weeks for maybe a February grouping. And so I know that's challenging when you're an applicant. You're always welcome to reach out to me if you have specific questions on that. But by the time we are looking at wrapping up, we will notify everyone that this application is kind of done and we're going to open up another one and then encourage everyone to apply again. And that process is pretty easy with our software system because it's going to pull everything that you already did. So it should be pretty quick to be able to reapply.
Thank you. And this is a follow-up question from one of our instructors. And I think it's just good because I know that we've received this a couple times. So you are not requiring the ATP certificate. You are just requiring ATP minimums, correct?
Correct. We are still offering the ATP course as well. I know some regionals have elected not to do that right now, but we are still offering the course. If we make a job offer, then you would have the course covered, your travel, and your hotel while you're attending the course.
For the ATP CTP course.
For the ATP CTP course, sorry.
Okay, perfect. And then, but I think we had discussed a little bit beforehand, though, that is something that right now you do have a large number of applicants as well. So, you definitely want to think of ways to make yourself stand out as an applicant.
Yeah, if you have the opportunity to take the ATP course, I would encourage you to do it because it's just one more requirement that is already met, and it makes you more competitive in the market if you already have your ATP.
Perfect. All right. And now, Eric, I'd like to just ask you, what are some tips that you might have as far as the applicant? How did you help to prepare for the interview process?
Well, I had to make the transition to JEP charts, so I started flying with JEP charts. And I think one of the things that, just to give you a sense of where you should be in terms of coming to an airline, you really should be able to fly single pilot IFR. That doesn't mean that you should rent a plane and go out and do it if you're not comfortable. I'm just saying that's about the level that you should be at. If you feel like that prospect is a little bit daunting right now, maybe you don't quite know the rules, or some of the things that come at you in the IFR world are a little too overwhelming or too fast, maybe a little bit more self-study, a little bit more back into the books. But with regard to preparing yourself for the interview, it's so funny. So much of the interview is about making sure that you're the kind of person that, the chief pilot would like to spend time with in the cockpit. Coming out of ATP, if you go through the program and you really commit yourself to the study, you will be prepared. You will be prepared. So there are a lot of guides out there that can help you dust off some of the information from some of the earlier instrument days if you've been teaching for a while. And not instrument flying. But yeah, it's not too bad. I also think there are, you could reach out to me. You can reach out to me if you have any specific questions. I'm more than happy to help out and mentor you in any way that I can.
Oh, well, that's very gracious of you. Thank you. Do you think the cross country, or the crew cross country experience helped prepare you for some of those tell me about a time when situations?
Absolutely, because so much, I'm going to keep my language tame. So much crap happens when you're on crew, when you're out there, you just start to see the challenges of like a multi-crew environment. You're in charge of the airplane, you're making decisions real time. That's where you start to cut your teeth. That's where you start to see the things that the chief pilot is going to ask you about. And they want to see that, if you were placed in a position to make a decision, that you really used all the tools in your toolbox, and that your toolbox was full, and that you had the clarity of mind to access the toolbox, that sort of thing.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, a question for Deja that we have from Facebook Live. Does Horizon have a maximum number of check ride failures that they would review an application?
We don't have a maximum number that we cut you off at, but we do review all your safety record, and it's important that, you know, what we're ultimately looking for is, do we believe that you will be successful in our training program? Because it's a disservice to everyone if we bring you in and then you aren't able to make it through our training process. So we look at things like how many training failures you have, but also we're looking at how recent those training failures are. Kind of what were they? What happened? We do ask you to tell us about your training failures so we can understand what happened and also what you learned from it and what the takeaway was. And so it's not a number so much as really understanding kind of what your history looks like, how it has impacted you today. A lot of times we learn in training failures so much, right? You usually don't see the same training failure multiple times. For the same reason, at least, because we do tend to keep those in our heads. So there's no hard number that we cut you off at.
Perfect. Thank you. And Chelsea, oh, she's one of our instructors. She said, "Hey, Deja and Eric, as part of the interview process, do you do any type of personality or aptitude tests, Myers-Briggs, or anything like that, or something similar?"
Yeah, we don't use any of that right now. I know that we are continuing to look at our process and examine what things we are doing now and how we can improve our process. So I don't know what that might look like in the future, but today we are not using any type of personality inventories.
Okay, perfect. And then in light of the pandemic, can you just maybe speak to some experience of what Horizon is doing to ensure, you know, safety, cleanliness on board the aircraft? And also, after maybe Deja, you talk about that, Eric, you can talk about, you know, just a day in the life of experiencing that flying now.
Yeah, and I bet Eric can probably talk to the ins and outs of what that looks like on the airplane, probably even better than I can, but we have put a ton of energy resources into making sure that our flights are as safe as possible and that our guests can be assured that when they enter our airplanes, you know, that everyone is going to be wearing a mask, that we have sanitized the airplane more than we did pre-COVID. I mean, extra precautions have been taken care of to make sure that, that everything has been disinfected, that we are providing the safest environment for you. We have excellent HEPA filters that really keep our air cleaner than, I mean, the latest research that has come out of universities is that it's safer to be in an airplane than in an office building. And we are really dedicated to making sure that every employee is wearing a mask, every passenger is wearing a mask. We've blocked middle seats to be able to make sure that we're not at full capacity. You're going to be able to feel comfortable that you're not closed in on all sides by people that you don't know. If you're in your party, then we put people together. And those are the precautions that we've done on the airplane, obviously in our office buildings. And for our interviews, we've had people ask about that, and we do temperature readings at all of our buildings for everyone that enters. We have hand sanitizer everywhere you look, basically, and masks is of course required in our buildings. So that's how it looks on my end. Eric, I'd love to hear from your perspective.
Oh my gosh, it's aggressive. Like these cleaning teams, they're like waiting right in the jet bridge as soon as the door pops open. I swear to God, they don't wait for the entire plane to be deplaned. They are in the first class section cleaning it before the entire plane is deplaned. It's kind of a spectacular thing to see. And I think it goes a long way with the passengers too, because they're like, whoa, you guys are intense. It's a lot. But yeah, for the mask policy, obviously for the pilots who are out there, it extends absolutely up to the point until the flight deck door closes, when we can technically not be wearing the mask because of the quick don oxygen masks, but that's the only time. And as Deja mentioned, the University of Washington study and the Harvard study together both put airplanes with HEPA filters as one of the safest indoor environments you could possibly be in right now, which is actually kind of comforting. So as long as you're careful going through the airport, I can speak from personal experience at SeaTac. I go in down to the crew room. So I'm pretty much underground, away from passengers, direct to the plane, into the cockpit, doors closed, HEPA filters on. I don't feel any increased risk. And I have an 8-month-old at home. So it's really important to me.
Well, that's great to hear. Yeah, and I think the statistic was on average, I think the cabin air recirculates every 3 or 4 minutes. So that's on board most aircraft. So that's really, it is a safe place to be. As far as the interview process, I think this just brought on a follow-up question that some of our viewers might wonder. Deja, right now, is everything being conducted in person or portions of it done via Zoom? How are you guys engaging with that?
Yeah, so we are doing a lot of Zoom interviews for a ton of positions. We recently had our first post-COVID interview. We did do it in person. We were able to have everyone 6 feet social distance at every moment. So regardless of whether you were in a presentation or in an interview 2-on-1, you had the 6 feet, everyone wore their masks. We had all of the hand sanitizer done. Obviously, there's been an uptick in the virus recently. And so we are relooking and seeing if there is some way that we can provide a virtual interview experience moving forward. So I will be curious to see how we are able to implement that, but it is something we're looking into just to make everyone as safe as possible. But we also feel pretty comfortable with the situation that we have in an in-person environment because we have such a large spaces that are able to accommodate every requirement that the CDC, or every recommendation, not requirement. We exceed the recommendation or the requirements and are able to honor all the recommendations as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, a question from Samuel is, on average, how long, so maybe this is pre-COVID, you can talk about this, how long does it take an FO to receive a line as opposed to sitting reserve? And maybe even more basic for that for some of our viewers that are starting out, can you just walk through the difference between sitting reserve and a line, Eric?
Oh, of course. Yeah. So the difference, simply put, reserve is you are on call for a certain number of days, during a certain number of hours during each day. So right now I'm actually sitting on call right now. I'm on call till 10:30 p.m. this evening. And if they call me at any point, it's just 2 hours to get to the airport. I think 90% of the time it's not that. It's, hey, tomorrow we've got a trip, we want you to go on, something like that. But that's reserve. You're on call, just like a doctor would be on call. And then the line is a set schedule. So you would get that, just 2 weeks in advance of the month coming up. And yeah, in a nutshell, that's what that is. So it's speaking, however, to when you come off of reserve. We all start on reserve and go into a line. It's entirely dependent on the demand and the amount of flying that Horizon has to do. That's seasonal, that's pandemic dependent, that's it's a number of factors. Currently, I'm on reserve, and I think I'm 3 from the bottom of the list, so I'm pretty low. Last I checked, there's about 40 of us on reserve and 150 or so who hold lines, roughly speaking. So it's dependent on how many people come up underneath me, how many people go up off the top. And then the last comment I'll make on that is, if you do end up on the Q400, of course, there are multiple bases, right? So the more junior a base is, the quicker you will be making it to getting a line, right? Conversely, if you really want a certain set of days off, maybe you say, nah, I'll stay reserved for a little while. Or, there's a million different pieces at play, and you can customize it to your liking, depending. So.
Thank you for that. Well, I do want to thank both of you for taking the time to discuss career opportunities and flying at Horizon Air with us today. We are approaching our hour, so thank you, Deja. Thank you, Eric, for joining us. And for all of our viewers that have any questions on Horizon Air and future applications, I'm just going to go ahead and share this screen with you really quick so that you're able to see the website. And so if you go to alaskaair.jobs, you can click on Horizon Air, and then you are able to scroll down and see information on Horizon specifically. So that's how you will be able to find that information. And Deja, if anyone is listening in that is perhaps part of a university program, do you want to tell them really quick too, just that there is this opportunity available?
Yeah, right now our window for internships are available right now. And those are all across different departments, but including the flight ops division. And that closes on, or it opened on the 16th. It's open for 2 weeks. And so we would love to have you apply. There are some requirements about your graduation time and being in that window. But even if you don't meet the requirements for the internship, we always have jobs posted entry level that you wouldn't need to be in a specific region for. So keep looking at our windows if you are interested in joining the team.
Perfect. Well, thank you both for joining us today. We're really excited that we could have you here. And for all of our viewers, thanks for tuning in. We hope you all have a great weekend and fly safe. And if you have any questions on future webinars, you can go to atpflightschool.com/webinar. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you.